Assalamu alaikum. Myself, Dr. Ansari Farzana Zama, Department of Chemistry, J.A.T.rts Science and Commerce College, Malegaon. Welcome all of you. Today, in this representation, we are going to study column chromatography. Chromatography is an analytical technique for separation of mixture of chemical component into individual component. Michael Sweat, a Russian botanist, in 1900 introduced the technique and coined the term chromatography, which is Greek word chroma meaning color and graphy meaning writing or recording. Mikhail used the technique for the separation and identification of different pigment of plant leaves. He prepared a plant leaves extract in petroleum ether. The experimental setup consists of simple setup of glass column packed with chalk powder, that means calcium carbonate, as a solid adsorbent to separate different pigment through which the ether extract was allowed to pass from the head of column. Pure ether was then allowed to flow through the column, which resulted into separation of different components observed as different colored bands on the column against the white background of absorbent. The different bands were then extracted with alcohol and collected in different containers. The technique of chromatography was later extended and developed by Martin and co-worker. Archer John Porter Martin, a British chemist, shared the Nobel Prize in the year 1952 with Richard for his work in chromatography. The technique of chromatography is the distribution of component in a mixture between two immiscible phases which are in close contact with each other. One of the phase is the stationary phase, which consists of finely divided solid particle or a thin layer of a liquid supported on an inert solid layer. The other phase is the mobile phase, which move over the stationary phase. It may be either a liquid or gas. The sample to be separated into individual component is mixed with mobile phase. The sample is allowed to remain in contact with two phases for some time. The stationary phase provides a retarding force which causes the component to move at slow rate. The mobile phase provides a deriving force for the movement of mobile phase over the stationary phase. These two counteracting forces result into movement of sample component with varying speed resulting into their separation. Chromatography finds application in many areas of study in chemistry, biology, and pharmaceutical. Chromatography is regarded as an analytical technique used for purification and separation of organic and inorganic substances. It is used in separation of pigment, dye, vitamins, isomers in fractions of complex mixture and isolation of unstable substances. Chromatography technique can be classified by three different ways. The first classification is based on physical configuration of stationary phase and mode in which mobile phase is brought in contact with stationary phase. On this basis, chromatographic method may be classified into two types: planar chromatography and column chromatography. In planar chromatography, the stationary phase is either coated on a planar surface like glass plate, plastic, or metal foil. Thin layer chromatography (TLC) and high performance thin layer chromatography, or is in the form of water droplet held on uniform paper strip called paper chromatography. In column chromatography, the stationary phase is confined to column made of either glass or metal, and the mobile phase may be either a gas or liquid. Liquid chromatography or supercritical fluid chromatography. The second type of classification is based on the nature of mobile phase. On this basis, chromatographic techniques are classified into three types: liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, and supercritical fluid chromatography. Liquid chromatography uses a liquid as the mobile phase. High performance liquid chromatography is an example of liquid chromatography. Gas chromatography uses an inert gas like hydrogen, helium as the mobile phase. Gas solid and gas liquid chromatography technique are two types of gas chromatography. Supercritical fluid chromatography makes use of supercritical fluid. Mostly carbon dioxide is used as a mobile phase. The third type of classification is based on the mode of separation of component of a sample. There are five different modes by which this separation takes place. First one is adsorption, second partition, third ion exchange, fourth size exclusion and affinity. It should be noted that it is a broad classification and does not give a very clear distinction between any two processes. A chromatographic technique may be sometimes a combination of more than one mode of separation. In this chapter, the technique of ion exchange chromatography, liquid solid column chromatography, and size exclusion chromatography will be introduced. Principle of column chromatography. Column chromatography consists of a cylindrical column packed with uniform size particle of solid stationary phase. Column chromatography can be considered to be both adsorption as well as partition chromatography. In adsorption chromatography, the stationary phase, which is solid, alumina, magnesium silicate, charcoal powder, silica gel, etc., tries to absorb the component of mixture, while the mobile phase, which is generally liquid, desorbs the component of mixture. So, this technique is based on adsorption desorption process. Thank you for watching.